Alright gamers, listen up. Here is a little bit of a hot take, and I want you guys to listen for just a brief moment. If you're a true gamer, then you'll obviously know, but we are approaching the end of the year, which means it's time for everybody's favorite event, every gamer's favorite event, the Game Awards. As you can see, the voting has already begun, and all of the categories are up right here. But obviously, look, all these other categories, sure, whatever. Who gives a shit, right? The real thing we're worried about is this one right here, Game of the Year. This is the prestigious award where if won by your favorite video game, then you have every reason to brag about the fact that you have impeccable taste in video games and that everybody else's taste in video games is trash. Usually, I don't really give a crap about them because normally the games that I personally enjoy and the games that I know I like are usually not even anywhere close to the list of Game of the Year. It has been like that for the past several years of the Game Awards, but this year, things are a little different because there is actually one game on here that I have played to death and I think absolutely deserves to win Game of the Year. And today's video is me basically spilling my guts over the love of this particular game. And if you've seen the title and thumbnail, then you obviously already know which game that is. That's right. We're going to be talking about Metaphor ReFantazio. Oh my lordy, lordy, lord. This game is amazing. See, y'all motherfuckers thought that I was going to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. No. Look, on a serious note, as much as I did enjoy Rebirth, I still do believe it had its problems. If we're talking about the new Final Fantasy VII games, personally speaking, and I have to preface it by saying personally speaking, as a personal opinion, don't get mad, Final Fantasy fans, but I thought Remake was better than Rebirth. You may now commence stone throwing in the comments. But we're not talking about that today, okay? We're talking about Metaphor ReFantazio, Atlus's brand new video game that came out, I think like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago as of me recording this video. And this game is especially significant to not just Atlus fans, but more specifically Persona fans, because it is essentially the same core team that brought Persona to life. It is the same series director, it is the same character designer, and of course, it involves the GOAT of video game composers, my boy, Meguro Shoji. Which, let's be real, is like half the reason why all the Persona games are amazing. And so, unsurprisingly, when Metaphor ReFantazio came out, I immediately bought it, I immediately started playing it, and I immediately started loving it. But in the back of my mind, I always thought, okay, Joey, look, maybe, you know, this is going to be some kind of like weird spin-off to the Persona series. Because for those of you who don't know, although a lot of the general story themes and beats and the gameplay loop is pretty similar among all the games with minor differences, the stories, however, are completely separated. So you don't necessarily have to have played Persona 3 or 4 to enjoy 5. You can jump into literally any numbered Persona game and it'll be just as much of a new experience as people who have played every other Persona game. So I thought with Metaphor ReFantazio, it might be the same team, but maybe it's kind of like a weird spin-off type of thing. And when it comes to weird spin-off games, most of the time it's just like kind of, you know, okay. I mean, you have some rare exceptions, but as the name suggests, they are rare. But the more and more I got sucked into the world of Metaphor ReFantazio, there was this almost scary thought that was building up in the back of my brain. And this scary thought simply went something like this. This might be better than Persona. And look, I'm not just saying that because I'm riding the hype train because it's a brand new game or whatever. I was genuinely starting to think, and this is coming from a hardcore Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, Atlus dick rider, that I truly do believe Metaphor ReFantazio might honestly be the best game that Atlus has brought out, and potentially one of the best JRPGs to come out in the modern era. I know that is a big claim, but this is what this video is all about. So, to start off with, I'm obviously not going to go into any spoiler territory when it comes to Metaphor ReFantazio. I think experiencing the game blind, just like I did, is obviously the best way to play it. So, obviously, before I start getting into the nitty-gritty details, this is a spoiler warning for you guys. Obviously, if you would like to play the game without getting spoiled, without me talking about the nitty-gritty details, I would advise you to do a high-precision backwards long jump like Mario, away from your computer, and go and play the game for yourself. So with that being said, I think what's really important to understand about why Metaphor ReFantazio is such an amazing game really has to do with what makes a great JRPG. Obviously, it has a number of factors, such as a great and engaging story with lots of twists and turns, but nothing too weird or bizarre or out of the ordinary. And what I mean by that is making, obviously, the plot interesting and gripping with lots of twists and turns, but not making it overly complicated. I mean, look, sometimes an overly complicated plot can be an absolute genius story in its own part. But the reason why this game works is because this game is only 30 hours long. Metaphor ReFantazio, on the other hand, at least in my first playthrough, was 90 hours long. I can sink my teeth into a 30-hour convoluted plot like 13 Sentinels because it's only, in brackets, only 30 hours long, which in JRPG standards is really not that long. Mind you, an average Shin Megami Tensei or Persona game can easily go 3-4 times that length, at least in my experience. So you obviously need an engaging plot, but something that's not too convoluted, and I think Metaphor managed to deliver that in a really, really cool way. The premise was completely different to any Shin Megami Tensei or Persona game in that it is set in a very fantasy world, kind of akin to the old school Final Fantasy games, you know, with your kings and lords and knights and goblins and magic, you know, your typical fantasy stuff. But somewhere in there, they throw in this little twist that makes you think, hang on a second, is this actually a fantasy world? There's something weird about the way that this plot is structured that makes me believe that, you know what, they might be tugging on our leg a little bit. This might not actually be like your typical fantasy world that you think of. And look, again, I'm going to avoid spoilers, but it's not. But this is where I give props to the writers of Metaphor ReFantazio, is that they managed to do this really good job where they throw in tiny little hints throughout my 90-hour journey. These tiny little hints of, hey, you're not exactly in just like a regular fantasy world. There's something else going on here. And then after a couple of smaller plot twists, they give you the big final plot twist that kind of explains everything and goes, aha, that's what that was all about. And look, it might not necessarily be like the most like mind expansion type of plot twist out there, especially when it comes to JRPG games, but it works. It works with the setting and it works with how the storytelling has been going. It's hard to get your foot into it, but once your foot is in, you are going down that sinkhole no matter what. Second reason why Metaphor ReFantazio is amazing is because of the characters. Now, again, this is just my personal opinion, but out of all of the Persona games that I have played, out of all the Shin Megami Tensei games that I've played, in fact, out of all the JRPG games that I've ever played, there has only been a couple of games where the entire cast of characters is actually likable. These are a couple where I loved every single character in the game, but there's always at least one character where you're like, oh my god, this game would have been perfect. This cast of characters would have been goated if it wasn't for you. Metaphor ReFantazio is a game where all of the cast of characters I really, really like. There wasn't a single character that felt off or that felt shoehorned in to satisfy some kind of weird fetish of the creators or weird fetish of the fan base or anything like that. You know what I'm talking about. You know, your stereotypical, like, oh, this is that stereotype and this is that trope of an anime character. Now, Metaphor ReFantazio didn't really have that. I feel every single character served its purpose. Every single character had an interesting backstory. Every single character made sense to be in this group that you end up with at the end of the game. And again, it was done in a way that didn't feel forced, in my opinion. Again, like everything just felt kind of natural and believable, which is a huge thing to be able to do, especially in a work of fiction that, you know, really, you're not supposed to give a shit about because they are just fictitious characters. Third reason why Metaphor ReFantazio is goated is obviously the visuals, the music, the stimuli that goes into your face. I mean, we don't really even have to comment on the music of Metaphor because it's fucking Meguro Shoji. Literally listen to any Persona soundtrack that he has ever done and you'll instantly know why. But another thing that I didn't think was even possible was that Atlus somehow manages to keep one-upping the visuals, and more specifically, their menuing. Because this is what the menu for Metaphor ReFantazio looks like. Just look at it. Just look at it. It's gorgeous. I mean, again, if you've seen any of the modern Persona games like Persona 5 or Persona 3 Reload, you know that Atlus's menuing game is just like on another fucking level, but they somehow managed to just keep one-upping the visuals. I don't know how they do it. Whoever is the art director for this shit needs a goddamn medal. But this game just looks so good. It just looks so pretty. The characters look so good. And again, unlike a lot of the Persona games where most of the time you're just following around humans, this one, you're in a fantasy world where there are lots of different races of people. And even though most of these character designs you have never seen in the Atlus style, they just look so goddamn good. I mean, the monster designs are absolutely insane looking. It's like Junji Ito and Guillermo del Toro had a baby and they started to draw immediately out of the womb. The dungeons are actually like unique and interesting, which is a big problem that a lot of people had, especially with Persona 3 Reload when they were playing that for the first time, where the dungeons were kind of samey looking the entire time. This one is kind of similar to Persona 5 in that sense, where each dungeon is actually quite unique. So it actually feels good to like go into a dungeon and try and discover and figure out what the hell is going on. And obviously with modern Atlus games, you get all sorts of different cutscenes, you get pre-rendered cutscenes, you get fully anime cutscenes. I don't know what exactly is the reason between choosing a pre-rendered cutscene and an anime cutscene, but hey, look, every time it came out, I just put the controller down. I was like, I'm just gonna enjoy this absolute cinema. But here is the, I guess, biggest reason why I believe Metaphor ReFantazio might be one of Atlus's best games and is leagues better, in my opinion, to something like Persona. It's the simple fact that you have complete control and customizability over every single character that you have. I hate to compare, but obviously this is going to be a natural comparison. So let's compare how you go through a battle and how you customize your team in a Persona game versus how you would in Metaphor ReFantazio. For example, in Persona 5, the whole shtick is that the main character can wield these multiple personas, or these multiple, I guess, things that you can summon, and each of these personas that the main character can summon has different abilities attached to them. However, it's not just the main character fighting in a Persona battle, you have 3 other party members who are joined with you. Your other characters that you have in your party have static abilities. In other words, they have a designated persona that can only learn a designated number of moves and have one class, if you'd like to call it that. Which, you know, is fine because you have your main character that is customizable, that has multiple different things, and you can change it around to help with the synergy of the rest of the teammates that you decide to choose. This is a staple in the Persona series, and I have no problems with it. What Metaphor decided to do, however, is essentially do what you do with the main character of every Persona game, give it the customizability of main character in a Persona game, and give it to every single playable character. In other words, now you're not just thinking about how to change the classes and build of the main character in the story. You're also trying to manage that with every single character in your party, which is amazing for a number of reasons. One, it adds so much more depth to each battle, especially when it gets to the later battles where really, if you don't have an optimal build, if you just go in guns blazing thinking that you can go through it with brute force, you're going to get absolutely myrtleized by turn 2. Second of all, it really adds this interesting level of strategy where a lot of JRPGs, at least in my opinion, is all about just kind of like, you can just over level, you know, do a little bit of grinding, over level a little bit to just, you know, basically steamroll the enemies, whatever. And look, not to say that you can't do that in Metaphor. Obviously, there are a lot of places where you can just grind out and get to level 99 and just call it a day. But you can also bypass that boring grinding stage that even a lot of JRPG fans hate doing and actually add a little bit of brain power to customize your team to try and match whatever it is that you need to do to win that particular fight. But what Metaphor also managed to do is to also kind of give each character a static power at the same time as giving customizability. Each character does have their particular traits or particular powers, or I guess classes that they specialize in, but on top of that, if you have the time and you have the capacity to do so, you can also change the class and add new classes to this static class that each character has to further enhance the static class that they specialize in. And it's such a cool concept that I'm surprised they didn't really flesh out in other Atlas games, or rather any other JRPG for that matter. I mean, there might be a JRPG that has done that before. Maybe I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But alas, that was one thing that really just made each progression of the story, the harder bosses that you would face, just a lot more interesting to strategize with, that I didn't really feel with a lot of other JRPGs. You know, there's a lot of jokes out there that are saying like, oh, well, you know, Metaphor is like Persona mixed with Persona. And, you know, they're not wrong about that. It totally does feel like a Persona game. But I think Atlas managed to just add like these really small yet subtle yet also quite powerful quality of life changes to the gameplay and the visuals and the storytelling that just gives it so much of a brand new experience that is unlike any Persona or Shin Megami Tensei game that you will ever play. And again, let me stress this. This is not me downplaying Shin Megami Tensei games or Persona games. I fucking love all of these games. All I'm saying is, Metaphor ReFantazio, in my personal opinion, may be, for all of the reasons that I just mentioned in the last 20-something minutes, might honestly be one of the best JRPG experiences I've had in the modern day, and, in my opinion, deserves Game of the Year 2024. I mean, look, let's be real. The fact that, you know, there's games like Black Myth Wukong and the Elden Ring DLC that are also in the running for Game of the Year tells me that I don't think Metaphor has a fucking chance of winning it, because let's be real, JRPG fans, we're a minority. I'm just happy, to be honest, that Metaphor even fucking made it up there. All right, that's a W for us, dog. Like, the fact that we have 2 JRPGs, 2 out of 6, a third of the Game of the Year nominees is covered by fucking JRPG, Japanese anime RPGs, is a W. So if my overly blubbery and way too heated over-explanation of why Metaphor ReFantazio is one of my favorite games of 2024, and honestly, again, what might be one of my favorite JRPGs of, I'd say, the last 5 or 10 years, and that hasn't convinced you to go play it yet, then you're just not a JRPG fan at that point, I don't think. Which again, it's fine. I don't blame people for not playing JRPGs, okay? They're long, they take a lot of commitment. If you hate cutscenes, you're probably gonna want to kill yourself at the end of especially Metaphor. But at least for me, it was an amazing experience. Those 90 hours fucking flew by. And look, I'm just kind of treating this as of right now as Persona 6. We've been waiting for fucking 10 years for Persona 6 to come out. Still no sign of it at all. So this honestly might just be Persona 6. And if it is, I'm not complaining. So yeah, well done, Atlas people. You keep getting these Ws. I don't know how you do it, but the JRPG community says thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for giving us such an amazing game. But yeah, that was it for my rant. Let me know your thoughts about the game down in the comments below. Do you think it deserves Game of the Year? What are some other things about Metaphor that you enjoyed or maybe not enjoyed that I didn't bring up? Let me know down in the comments. I'm gonna go play Dragon Quest 3 now. Excuse me. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smack my face right here. Subscribe to the channel. Let's keep making big channel up and go bigger. Over here next to my head, there's a couple more other videos you can check out. If you enjoyed this one, links to my social media as well as my Patreon to support me directly. And nonsense, hey, right now, if you're watching this as the video comes out, we have a flash sale going on the store for the next 72 hours. Get in, get some stock while it lasts, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.